Finally. Okay, finally, we have had a lot of difficult shows that we've been talking about lately everywhere, from dating to, past traumas in childhood and stuff like that, to where now we get someone who's going to talk about something that's pleasant, generally pleasant. So sometimes it's a little awkward, but it's generally pretty pleasant. I am thrilled to introduce to you to international public speaker and author Mandelynn Moses. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, no problem. Tell us about love.
So, this has been a concept that I've been teaching for years, and it's been my ultimate purpose in life is to be someone out there that actually expresses what love really is. Years ago, I created a workshop called "What is Love." And the very first time I did it, I had like a big group and everybody was talking about love. And, I opened up the workshop saying it's said to have 136 different definitions of what love is, right? So we'll talk about, oh, I love this slice of pizza. Oh, I love the weather. I love the beach. I love you. I love my children. I love, there's like this word love is just used so, in such a broad way. And it was funny because this morning I was just thinking about this for my daughter. And they're going to be today, I'm glad we're having this conversation. I have to message her. It's her anniversary with her husband. And a lot of people think that relationships and marriage and everything, it all has to do with love. And this notion of love and people falling in and out of love with each other. And that's not love. There's no such thing as falling in love with somebody and then out of love with somebody. And so when I was teaching this workshop, at the end of the workshop, after everybody was kind of discussing what love is, a man in the workshop asked me, "So, Mandelynn, what is your definition of love?" And I said, "It's simple. There's only one definition of love. And love is holding someone to a higher standard than they would hold themselves. That is the definition of love."
Okay. So in that definition, one of the things that we always hear is that you cannot love someone unless you love yourself.
Oh my gosh, I hate that saying more than anything in the whole wide world.
I'm glad I brought it up then.
I loathe that expression because it's funny because if you ask 100 people, 95% of people, like if I ask you, "Hey Zach, do you love yourself?" What's going to be your answer?
Sometimes.
Honestly, people say, "Well, I love myself, and I really want this. I want this relationship. I want this money. I want this job. I want this. I love myself. I'm doing everything." Most people are going to say that they love themselves, right? Most people aren't going to say, there are some people out there that, are very unhappy and they're going to say that they don't love themselves. But the way that, we're not here to be on this planet by ourselves. We're just not. God gave us 7.8 billion other people on this planet to connect with. And these people in our lives come into our lives to show us love. And many times show us where we need to grow and expand. And we can never do that alone, and it's like, so how can you say that, if you don't love yourself, nobody else is going to love you? Or how can somebody love you if you don't love yourself? That's just crazy. We're supposed to spend our entire life in isolation until we come to this like realization, oh my gosh, I finally love myself. And then you come out into the world and the whole world is just going to embrace you with this notion of unconditional love. That's insane. That is absolutely insane way of thinking. It's like if I'm having if like just recently I had a pretty big health scare, right? And I was down. I was feeling really down. I was feeling like, my gosh, like, me of all people, like, how did this happen to me? But you know what? I was so blessed in that moment that I had all these friends that reminded me of how amazing I was, and why I was, man, my friends were like, man, this was just the devil's chance to get you down. You know what I mean? God sent you here for a reason. Get your head up. You're here for a reason. You're going to get through this. Man, I couldn't imagine going through what I went through without all these people reminding me of how beautiful I was. Because at the time I was just ready. I was like, I was stressed out. I was at the lowest point of my life. And here I have all these people that stood up to bring my chin up. It was like, thank God I had those people that held me to a higher standard, that kept me distracted from all of the chaos that was going around me. That's what people are for. So I absolutely loathe that saying, because we need people to remind us of how powerful we are in certain moments when we're not feeling powerful ourselves.
I tell people on a daily basis that when I was in the hospital bed after my motorcycle accident, one of my first thoughts that I can remember, of course, I don't remember a whole lot about it, but the one thing that I do remember is waking up and knowing that there were people there, seeing that there were people there for me to take care of me. And one of my first thoughts was, what if I had just moved to this area and somebody ran me off the road and nobody knew me? How scary would that have been to woken up to nobody there, being there, to, my friends, my family are hundreds of miles away or even 70 miles away, but nobody can get there overnight. And we're sitting there, I'm sitting there in a very scary situation and people couldn't be there for me. And when I first started creating Community Pay It Forward, that was one of the things I wanted to make sure that we could do, that we could tell somebody who's in a bad situation, hey, we don't know you that well, but we're here for you, to show people that we're here to love them. And I love that the fact that you brought that into your explanation, that really, you know, that's that's what this is about, is support and just being there. It's a tough life when you don't think anybody's there for you.
You know, I'm going to share these two stories. So, when I was in the hospital, so about a month ago, I got a phone call saying, you know, get to the emergency room right away. You're about to have a heart attack or a stroke. Like, if I wouldn't have gone to the hospital that morning or that night, I wouldn't have woke up in the morning. Like, I went into AFib. Um, in the hospital, my heart stopped several times. They had to do 3 EKGs on me because my heart kept stopping. And I go into the hospital, and obviously I'm in shock because I'm like super healthy, I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know what the heck's going on. But I'm just like laughing and joking with the hospital staff. It's like, look, at this point in my life, I'm just in your hands, right? And the doctor, I'll never forget this. Is just hands down one of the most beautiful moments of my life. And I have to say, I live a very blessed life. I really do. But this doctor comes in, and he has his hand on his chest, and he's like, Mandelynn, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing all right. I was like, I don't, I have no control of the situation. I'm in your hands. I still am in shock. I don't really know what I'm doing here. And we're just having this conversation, And I said, and I said, I just feel grateful, that I'm here. And he's like, you know what? I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're here. And that always just wants to bring tears to my eyes because he didn't know me,
Yeah.
but he like the body language of him standing up tall, the compassion of how I'm feeling, oh, that's what he said. He said, you know what? Try and get some sleep. And I said, you and I both know I'm not getting any sleep because the last time I tried falling asleep, my heart stopped and you guys all came running in to revive me. So I just said, I'm just going to sit here and meditate. And then that's when he said, I'm so happy you're here, And when the nurse came in to give me my blood transfusions, I was like, oh, give me some superhero blood if you have that. If not, I'll settle for Michael Jordan's. And she's like, I have never heard anybody laugh or joke with me while I'm giving them a blood transfusion before. And I was like, but what happened was the whole staff at the hospital was so enlightened and lifted because they were in this presence of love. And because of that, I don't have one of those horror stories about Western medicine or anything like that. I have like a beautiful story about the care that I was in because we all were in this beautiful marriage of love, and that's really what marriage is. Not like, signing a piece of paper, but it's the union of people coming together in this place of unconditional love and trusting each other. And I mean, as crappy as the situation was, it was just one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in my life.
I appreciate you saying that because I have never walked into a hospital when I was the patient and walked out angrier. I have never. I'm not the patient that's going to walk in there and complain and you know bitch and moan that, oh my god, the food is awful, all this stuff is awful. What's going on? I'll play around a little bit, with the nurses. They'll come in and they'll be like, oh, we're out of orange jello, and I'm like, what? I
Of
want to see the
course.
manager, stuff like that. I want to, and they're like, well, if you don't behave, we're just going to drug you and it'll knock you out. And I'm like, going, maybe that's what I'm looking for. I love being able to go in there and have fun with them because you hear the other people that are talking to him. Those rooms are nice and private,
Yeah.
but you still hear some of the other things that they have to go through. We've also all been in that situation where, guess what? Those nurses that bust their butt every day, they have to deal with situations where not everybody's as lucky as you are. Families are in very high intense times, and maybe if now, even if they don't intend on being the world's biggest jerk, it's not easy to lose a family member or see your son hurt. That was that was one time when I did snap out when my 1-year-old boy, the lady couldn't get the needle in his in his arm. And I wasn't the nicest guy that time, but it's like, stab me a million times. I don't care. You
Right.
don't stab my son again or I'm going to
Yeah.
hurt you. But what brought on the, I, what brought on this need to teach people about love?
It's funny because I came into this world completely unloved. You know, um, a few years back, my mom has never been a great mother, and my mom's never liked me. She's never loved me, and I'm not saying that like she's told me this. These are things that I hear from my mom. Calls me a joke. It's since the day I was born, I was rejected. And a few years ago, it was actually back in 2020, I was contemplating, I was like, because she just really was never a good mom. So I asked her, Mom, I understand that parents don't often get their side of the story told. And we don't, as children, we don't really know what you go through on a daily basis or whatever, and what you went through in your personal life that led to, where we're at today. So I said, Mom, do you mind if I interview you so I can just get to know you a little bit better? And she said, okay, sure. And the one thing that she said to me, it was totally not what I expected, but she said, the second you were born, you looked at me in my eyes and you judged me. And she says, I just couldn't deal with the judgment. I was like, so that was your thought. You just had I'm the firstborn out of all of the siblings. You just had your firstborn, and you're looking your daughter in her eyes. It's staring you back in your eyes, and you're looking at this baby that's been born only for a few moments. And all you can think to yourself is how much I judged you. So you can imagine the kind of life I grew up with. I grew up on my own. I grew up unloved. I grew up very independent. I had three siblings after me. I raised my kids. They were my kids, and but I really truly believe we come into this planet with contracts and missions, and our parents and our early caregivers, the circumstances that we're placed in, they are experiences that we go through that we transmute into wisdom. Now, many people can get caught up in their circumstances and victimhood and all of that, but those moments were there to teach us so we can overcome it, transmute it into wisdom, and serve fellow humanity. So although I could sit here and be like, man, like I was so abused, I was so neglected, I was so abandoned, I was never loved. And people were like, man, your mom is horrible. She's a horrible bitch, right? That could be totally justified. But that was not my purpose. My purpose was to go from being completely unloved to learning what it means to show unconditional, to be unconditional love. So now in my life, it is my mission to every single person or sentient being, leaf, ant, whatever on this planet. It is my mission. God put me on this planet to express unconditional love to everything around me, including myself, because I had to learn that for myself. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this, is because I grew up not being loved. And now I understand and I see that in people, regardless of their behavior, I can see their wound and I can show compassion for them, regardless of what circumstance they're in, or regardless of how they treat me. At least I can still show them compassion because I know I've been there.
You know, you hit it right on the head. I mean, when you were telling us when you were telling us the story about your mom, the first thing I was thinking of is, whoa, how, why would a mom? But I don't know her story, and so for me judging, that's that shame on me for judging. So I understand, where you were going. Where the first thought I was like is like, oh my God, poor lady, for
I
having to
want to
deal
I
with
want
that.
to say how funny that is because that was my normal growing up, And
Yeah.
so like as a storyteller, I share these stories um and it's not until like I'll go speak on stage or I'll share my story and I'll like, like things that my mom has done and people's eyes are like, and I'm like, "Oh, that's right, that's not normal."
Yeah, that's not normal, right?
That's not normal.
So, how difficult was parenting for you? Yeah, I mean, you've already said that you raised your siblings, but when you had your child, how difficult was it for you to go? And I'm pretty sure that some of the first things you were thinking of is, I'm doing this different. But how difficult was it for you to balance between over parenting and good parenting?
It's really funny. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine last night. I believe I just believe 100% that God puts you on this planet for a reason. Like you're here for a reason. And my reason and my purpose was to be a mom. Like it just, it's something that just honestly, I have to say, just really, I had my daughter when I was 14 and I had my second daughter when I was 16. And being a parent, it's just something that really came supernatural for me. And it was, there was a situation, I can name a million situations, but this one situation, when my kids were in high school, they had a friend who was having some real issues at home, and this kid ran away, and then I took her into my house. And here I am, you know, in my early 30s with two kids, single mother, and I'm sitting here mediating between this child and the mother and trying to get them to a point where they could come together. And I'm just like, how in the world do I have this figured out way before, this woman's like almost twice my age, and, and, even to this day, I've got grown, men and women who are older than me that call me mom. I have to say it was just something that I was born to do. And I think I did witness everything that my mom wasn't. And there was a part of me that was like, I'm gonna do better. And I really enjoy, I enjoy that. It's just natural for me to be nurturing. And I've been able to, been asked and to write parenting courses and teach parenting for different organizations over the last several years, and being a mentor is just something that honestly comes natural, and there's no other explanation for it besides motherhood has just been something that's been very natural for me.
Mandelynn, what kind of people need to come to you who are having, like, what kind of situations are you hoping that people come to you for? Is it for like self-expression, self-love, or is it like parenting, or is it just kind of all over the board? You're just looking for people to come to you because they have questions.
It's back in like I'm a business consultant, and I teach people businesses and things like that. And I always say there's riches in the niches. So when I teach people that, getting them to build their revenue, but so I'm going against my own business advice here, which I've done that before in the past, but where I'm moving at in my life right now, I wrote this book that's coming out. It should be out in October. It's called I'm Not Your Villain, I'm Your Mother. And especially when you go through a near-death experience like I did, you get really clear on what it is that you want. And for me, God put me on this planet to reach a lot of people. And I've been very blessed in my life to help thousands of people all over the world in so many different circumstances. And at this point, I feel like I'm just here for the world. And so, there's so many people that are going through situations in their life that they just need nurturing. They need a mother, they need a hug, they need someone to understand them, to get them. And unlike my mother, this is the biggest thing I had to overcome was judgment. As you can see, I grew up, you judged me. So you could imagine all the judgment and fear of judgment that I had to go through growing up. And so because of that, I don't see the world in any kind of judgment. I'm here to embrace everybody. And that's as true and authentic as I could share of myself. It doesn't matter what you're going through. I want everybody in the world to know that there's at least one person out in the world that loves you, that cares about you, that will not judge you. And whatever it is that you're going through, I'm here to listen. And I know this is kind of long winded, but a couple weeks ago, I was teaching at a youth conference, and I was teaching one of these workshops, What is Love? And at the end of the workshop, I went to each one of the students and I looked them in the eyes and I told them I loved them 3 times. And every single one of those kids, I said at the end, I said, "How well do you receive that?" And the kids just silently went, they couldn't receive it. And it just broke my heart. And there was this one kid, I asked, I said, "Why can't you receive that? You know, I'm looking you in your eyes and I'm telling you that I love you. Why can't you receive that?" And he said, "You don't know what I've done." And this kid was probably 13. What could you have done at the age of 13 that makes you so bad that you are not lovable?
Yeah.
And I said, "Why do I need to know what you've done in your life to love you the way you are in this moment right now?" And everybody on this planet just needs love. That's it. That's the only problem. We can go and talk about global warming, we could talk about pollution, we could talk about war, we could talk about politics, but at the end of the day, everybody's just out there trying to seek love and acceptance. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you just touched on a key word, and I'm not gonna stress on it too much, but I tell people all the time, I have got 3 men in my life who I have the utmost respect and love for. They are three of the most important men in my life, and politically we could not be further apart. I mean, they three stand on one side and I stand way the hell on the other side. I mean, I am so far away from them. We wouldn't be able to talk on a cell phone if we were talking politics. I
Right?
mean, it's that far apart. But I talk to all three of them all the time. And we can even talk about that dreaded politics word.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is that we understand that, there's a relationship there that's far, far more important than any of that other bull crap. And
Yeah.
we know that, our lives are going to suck without that other person in it.
Absolutely.
And so, you told us that story the other day in a meeting, the story about the students, and all I could think of is, we end this show by telling people to please love somebody out there because somebody out here loves you.
Hmm.
And it is so true. We don't need to know you to love and honor you. We don't need to know you to want to help you. We just need to know that you're there. You
Yeah.
need to allow us to be there for you, you know? And so your message is, I mean, it's like I said, we've had a lot of guests lately where it's a lot of grab your heart and clench your heart and oh my God, this is painful.
Right.
This is such a nice, relaxing conversation, but I understand that you know, what are some of the things that you have to deal with that you can't believe that you struggle with when you're talking to people? What are some of the things that people struggle with? Let me try to reword this to where it might
Mhm.
make a little more sense. What are some of the things that people struggle with that you try to get across to them that you're sitting there going, and we all have this moment, and
Yeah.
every single one of us, but it's like, what don't you understand? I'm going to beat the hell out of you because you can't get my kindness.
Right. Right. I mean, that's a good question. Man, I think that we've been so beaten up in our society. that there's this like, I guess I'm just going to let this flow, that there's this linear stream of events that need to happen in order for this to happen. That I can get this only if I do this and this and this and this and this. I really, really, really want this, but this has to happen first. And anytime I hear people say that, I just, in my brain, I'm just like, man, you just really don't understand how powerful you are. And how much that we gave our power away to things that just don't matter, you know? Like, we're only here on this planet for such a, let's just say at the tops 80 to 100 years. That's really not that much time. And I'm such a woman of faith. I'm like, do you really think God is going to place all those limitations on you to complete everything that you're capable of within that short amount of time? All you need to do in that particular moment is make the decision that you're going to do this, and magic will happen to you. And the more that you keep on thinking that this has to happen in order for this to happen, it's like what bothers me the most is that people just don't really realize how insanely powerful that they really are. And it's like, and I see it, and that's why I say love is really that unconditional holding people to a higher standard than they hold themselves. It's like, wait a second, lift up your chin. Lift up your chin, recognize who you are, recognize how powerful you are. We are all made in that image of the creation, so be that. And you'll see magic happen in your life right away, but don't limit yourself.
Well, let me ask you this one last question, and then I'll let you go. What is the one thing, Mandelynn, that you would tell somebody? And I don't, by no means, I don't want to simplify what you do, because I think what you do is amazing. But what is one thing that you tell somebody who is feeling unloved? What's the one thing that you can tell them to give them at least that little bit of boost to open their eyes and look around and find that person that does love them?
I always say, it's like, I'm going to start with this. We go through times in our lives that suck,
Yep.
that really, really, really suck. And it really drives me crazy when you've got, spiritual teachers or coaches that, or just regular people in the world that are like, oh, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, or they try and diminish what it is that you're going through,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or, oh man, you think you have problems. There's starving kids in Africa. God, that drives me absolutely crazy. Don't take away from my experience that I'm going through right now. So the things that there's two pieces of advice that I could give. I don't like the word advice, but number one, if you're going through something, do yourself a favor and go through it totally, 100%. Don't ease yourself out of it. This is where we get stuck into addictions and vices and all these distractions in life that that take us away from what it is that we're going through. And then what happens in that is later on, that's going to come back and bite you in your ass later. It's going to blow up later. So if you're going through something, a dark time, go through it 100% until you are ready to come out of it. It's okay to not be okay. It is okay to not be okay. It is okay. If you're having a bad day, I hate it when people say, it's like, how are things going? I'm fine. Oh, you should be perfect. No, you shouldn't be. It's okay. Find yourself some support and some people that are just going to hold space and listen and be a shoulder to cry on, because we need that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you're coming out of it, I always say, Now it's time to ask yourself, what was the beauty in that situation? There are certain situations, again, they just suck. A year and a half ago, I went through a situation that absolutely broke my freaking heart. Broke my heart. And I'm still trying to, there's a lot of beauty that came out of the situation, but it sucked, you know, but it sucked.
There was something that you said earlier that the phrase, and it's so funny because your answer fits it perfectly. The phrase came to my mind, live the suck. And your answer was exactly that. I didn't think I was going to get to use that phrase, but you said something a little bit earlier that all I could think of is live the suck. Live the suck, appreciate the suck. And that's exactly what it is. You cannot look, situations are going to happen, and the truth is that none of us have ever been in a bad situation and went, oh, thank God it happened right now. Yeah, they're always saying, oh, why did it happen right now? It's like, well, it happened right now because you're in right now. You cannot be at some other point in time. And so live the suck, and it's gonna suck for a while. Like you mentioned, one of the things that drives me crazy is when somebody will sit there and you'll be like, oh, I'm just dealing with a headache today, and you hear those words, welcome to my world. I want to strangle people when I hear that. Or, your pain, or, I've got a headache, but it's not near as bad as yours. Yeah. You don't know what mine's like. I don't know what yours is like. Live with your headache. Don't worry about mine. Your headache could be a hell of a lot worse for you because I live with them in a daily, you know, I live with them daily. So mine are manageable to me, so you live with yours. Yours are going to suck enough for you. So, but I want to thank you. I want to thank you for everything. And I want to thank you mostly for being you, because I think that it's really neat what you're doing. I also want to thank you for sitting in front of that really cool looking fireplace, because that is just awesome looking. So I've been staring at it the whole time. And I do think it's ironic that I put on my purple lighting in
I
the
know,
back.
right? We're twinsies right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So, I had the purple lighting in the back, and, the purple lighting above my head, shining my 5 head, which is kind of nice, going. But yeah, it was kind of neat that we're matching there. But Mandelynn, how do people get a hold of you?
The best way right now is I'm pretty active on Instagram, so definitely connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can also send me an email, but on LinkedIn and on Instagram, I will be posting updates pretty soon. With my book coming out, which my book is called "I'm Not Your Villain, I'm Your Mother," and we talk about all these things. And the book really is a story and a journey of self-love, and that how to overcome circumstances in our life and transmute those into our superpower. We need to take our power back and realize how innately powerful we really are, and stop giving away our power to all these things outside of ourselves. And that's how we're going to see change in this world. So I'm really excited about that. So contact me on those platforms, and definitely stay informed of when the book is going to come out.
Yeah. Do you have a release date yet? Or
Not yet. I'm on pins and needles right now. Right now, as far as our timeline goes with the publisher, it should be like around October. So,
Well, I'm
yeah,
going to ask you a huge favor. Please keep us updated
yes.
as soon as you have a release date. We will replay this show with your release date, and that way people can get a hold of you, and that way they can get a hold of the books. So
Yeah, that would be great. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just, I did want to mention one thing.
Yes.
Um, that what you had brought up earlier when we were talking about laughing and stuff in the hospitals. One little nugget, I've studied under almost every single religion that you can think of. I've been a student of every, I'm just a nerd that way. But the highest form is Buddhism. The highest form of any structured religion is Buddhism, and the biggest and it's Taoism. Buddhism is Taoist is what I've studied under, but laughter is the best medicine that you can ever. There's no higher form of medicine on this planet outside of laughter. So even when you're going through a difficult circumstance, it may not be funny in the moment, but find some humor in it. And that is going to heal you and your body and everybody around you, your mind, your spirit, faster than anything else out there in the world. Laughter is the highest form of human expression. So laugh your way through life. Life is nothing but a cosmic joke, and we're just like players in this comedy, and you can live a drama or a thriller or whatever it is, but I choose to live my life as a comedy, and it just seems to be the best way of healing. So find laughter in everything that you do, and that'll be your quickest path to self-love.
Mandelynn Moses, thank you very much. You can get a hold of her at mandelynn.moses@gmail.com. Once again, that's Mandelynn Moses, mandelynn.moses@gmail.com. You can get a hold of her on Instagram at Mandelynn Moses. And it's the same on LinkedIn. She's very easy to find. If you have any questions, it's all going to be attached to this video. Mandelynn, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I love you all so much.
Thank you.